Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy David, and I'm coming at you with another episode of the Free Play Mode's Quick Hit, and it is June 16th, 2015. And last night, a lot of people were like, oh my god, Square Enix and Sony melted the internet. Final Fantasy VII Remake has finally come out. All the fanboys and all the people who loved Final Fantasy rejoiced. Champagne flowed from the heavens, claps were heard around the world, except for me. And I got into this a little bit with my Sony E3 review, but I want to get into it a little bit further, and I'm not a fan of Final Fantasy VII. I don't hate the game, I'm just not a fan, and I did have the game when I was a teenager back when it first came out. I actually got the game in 1997 for my birthday on December 17th, and I actually remember like borrowing my mom's car, picking up my best friend Earl. We went to Funko Land because I got a lot of birthday money that year. It was my 17th birthday, and I got Final Fantasy VII, and this was in December of 1997. The game had been out for about 2.5 months by that time. And I honestly did not find the game to be impressive. Like, I remember spending the weekend over my friend Earl's house, and we beat the game in the weekend. And I honestly felt very unfulfilled. This was not my first RPG, far from my first RPG. Rather, like, I was a veteran of the Final Fantasy series. I'd played Final Fantasy 2 and 3, which is 4 and 6. I'd played Chrono Trigger. I'd played Dragon Quest series games. I'd played PC role-playing games such as Quest for Glory, Police Quest, Space Quest, and plenty. Return to Zork. I'd played plenty of role-playing games throughout my 17 years up until that point. And Final Fantasy really did not impress me. Like, I felt the game was poorly translated, I felt the story was very predictable, and I felt the characters were very bland. There were no... Like, the characters didn't make me care about their cause. There was no purpose for what they were doing. And it just felt like a very by-the-numbers RPG to me. It felt very standard. There were better RPGs out at the time of Final Fantasy VII's release. The only reason why Final Fantasy VII gets all the praise and all the hype and is held with the reverence that it's held with, and is held in such high regard, is that it's essentially the RPG that made RPGs cool. Prior to Final Fantasy VII, RPGs were looked down upon as that geek genre, like, oh, you're a geek if you play RPGs. Nobody was talking about RPGs in Newark, New Jersey. Nobody was talking about RPGs in the hood. That was the white boy thing, or that was the geek black kid thing. Like, you were shunned if you brought up RPGs. And like, even Zelda was an outlier. Like, Zelda had a small bit of credibility, but that was it. Like, if you were playing RPGs back in the day, you were not cool. And then Final Fantasy, like, the preview started, and this was the first high production RPG that I remember. Like, the commercials, the full motion videos, the shots of Midgard, the limit breaks, the magics, everything was shown in these commercials leading up to the release of Final Fantasy VII. And another big thing was that it was on the Sony PlayStation 1. It was a vast departure from the usual, what people thought to be the usual console for a Final Fantasy game, which was a Nintendo console. This did not come out on the next generation, at the time, console, which was the Nintendo 64. And so, all this combined made RPGs cool. Like, I remember people, like, die-hard Madden heads, die-hard NBA Live heads, like, at school talking about Final Fantasy VII. And I was like, man, you got these diehard, some gangbangers actually talking about Final Fantasy VII. But if you go back and actually play the original, and it is available out there if you look to find it. It's a bad game. It's badly translated. It's badly written, and it's just, I felt like I wasted 40 hours of my life. But I do understand why people hold it in such high regard. And people will buy this game for Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC because it is coming out on all three platforms. But it doesn't excite me. People will be like, "Oh, Dave, you're just a hater. You hate Final Fantasy." No, I love Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy 6. I love Final Fantasy 9. I love Final Fantasy 4. I don't like many of the recent Final Fantasies because there are much better RPGs out there like Skyrim, like Fallout, and those have, like, I've fallen out of love with the JRPG essentially, but I still do love to play RPGs. But I don't have the same fond memories of Final Fantasy VII that a lot of people out there do. So I want to know what you guys think about this. Leave a comment in the comment section below. If you're feeling creative, make a video comment. Like or dislike this video, give it a thumbs up or thumbs down. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, please do so and tell your friends. This is David from the Free Play Mode signing off. Hoping you have a good evening. Peace. I'm out.